Forum. We're excited to have you here, and we have a great panel that we've pulled together and ready to answer any questions you have at the end of their short presentations. Aha, and here comes Andruid Kern. He's going to make his way up to the blue area here and sit in a chair, and he has awesome specs on, and he will be our last speaker. So the first speaker was to be Marc Ruppel at National Endowment for the Humanities. Then Alana Selkowitz will speak from Unity. David Sarno, president of Lighthouse.us, and Andruid Kern from the National Science Foundation. Now, unfortunately, Marc had something come up and he can't make it. So I did not get from him a slide deck, but I did spend a few minutes before this talk pulling together some slides from NEH. Did you say something, Jonathan?
Oh, nope, sorry, I had left my mic on. It was just...
Oh, yeah, maybe I should mute everyone. What do you guys think? Before we get started, I'd like to take a minute to thank our sponsors. And it would be great if after this talk, you all could head over to the Expo Hall, Convention Center, and just walk around and check out some of the booths. Some of them are interactive, and I can just point out some of our cool startup companies like eLearning Brothers that makes great VR editing and composing content, hardware and software, Grove XR. And then as you walk down aisle B, the first booth on your left will be Zoe.com, and you'll see there a podium, it's called. It's like a little kiosk with a button that says click. And if you click on that, you'll be taken to a Google form where you just give a couple pieces of information, and then you can enter a raffle to win some free licenses. So that's a no-code VR editor. It's a wonderful product. And also next to them is Plum Fun, a new search engine that's completely private. And if you hit the click button there on their podium, you will be able to win some great swag from them. So I recommend visiting our sponsors and talking with them. So these are my rapidly pulled together slides on National Endowment for the Humanities. It's actually a place where I have never gotten grants before, but I have friends who have. And so NEH makes about 900 grants a year, ranging from small up to $750,000. They've given out over $5 billion over the years they've been in existence. The applicant success rate varies from 6%, which is very competitive, to 40%. So the funding ratio on average is about 16%. So competitive, but probably doable. And they have it set up in certain categories. So if you say wanted to make a program on history using VR, then what you would do is decide you're going to make it on history, and you would go to the grants page here, and they would give you certain options for what institute you would be developing this for, right? So for me, if I wanted to go through ASU, I would click on the second one, Institute for Higher Education. But if I was a 7th grade teacher, I would click on this third one, Institutes for K-12 Educators. So you see what I'm saying? They give you options in the type of institute that you work at. And then, no, I want to go back one and back two. Back one. Oh, come here, you. There, no, I wasn't ready for that. Countdown. Rachel, you're dancing. It's not time for the Unity slides. I need to get back to viewing my slides properly. View. Screen. What am I doing wrong here?
Does the refresh button in the top right help you at all? And or is it a whole different slide deck?
No, it's mine. I just can't advance. Now I'm trying to advance. I'm hitting spacebar, which I shouldn't do. I'm clicking on presentation tools and it's not advancing.
So that top, at the top where it says present, that's not working?
I can't see that. There we
The
go.
left of the,
Yes. That's a tiny little box we got here, my friend. All right. Eyes are going. So visit our sponsors, National Endowment for Humanities. So and this is just a snapshot of the timeline. So the maximum amount would be $150,000. It's open to organizations. This is just an example of the timeline. So if they open up the application process March 19th, you're given several months to write it. You turn it in by this due date. You would find out by December 17th. They have large panels that they pull together every year, including lots of experts in them. And then your start date would be around February 1 at the earliest. So the whole process, as you can see, is about 11 months. I'm going to switch now to talk a little bit about the Department of Education, their SBIR small business grants. And even though Ed Metz couldn't make it because he's running the annual showcase of game-changing innovations, that starts June 1. I encourage you to go visit that. Here's the tiny little link at the bottom, ies.ed.gov, and you'll find it. So there's 150 applicants and trailers that people who've been making educational games with government funding have put in, and he's running that expo, and we have a trailer in there for an engineering game that we've created. So excited that he's doing that. We're going to let David Sarno talk in depth about what this SBIR program is like, since he's a current recipient of one. But in general, they provide over $1 million in 2 phases. So you can get a phase 1 for $200,000 that lasts less than a year. It doesn't automatically mean you're going to get a phase 2. You have to apply for that. But then if you do, that's money for a phase 2 is for a full-scale product development and rollout. That includes evaluation as well. IES SBR releases solicitations, typically in early winter time, once a year. The emphasis is on their research plan and their commercialization plan. So the research plan is how will you show that what you've made is efficacious and did the game do what you claimed it would do? And then the commercialization plan is how will you monetize and sustain the product after the grant is finished. So I will just say quickly that my company that I started a long time ago, one of the first of the 3 companies I've started, called the Neuron Farm, we received 4 SBIR grants. And the first batch, the phase 1 and 2, were from NIH, and we made text comprehension software. It was very interactive, and it was delivered over the web. So that was a bit of a problem when we launched it in 2001, because teachers were used to having CDs mailed to them, and they didn't quite understand the whole idea of like browser-based interactive software. And firewalls in schools were like a huge problem. The second batch I got was from IES, and that was called Train the Trainers. And so we were teaching tutors how to work on decoding skills for children who had dyslexia. So these were both, great products, and ran their life course. And I certainly learned a lot creating them. I think now I'm going to hand it over to our next speaker, who is Alana, and she's going to talk about Unity for Humanity. And then after that, we'll let David Sarno talk more about SBIRs. So thank you very much, Alana.
Hi, so just a quick note, this is my first time in this world, so if I mess anything up, I'm just trying as best I can. So wish me luck. My name is Alana. I'm on the social impact team at Unity, and I'm focused on partnerships and programs for our social impact creators. Oh, see, there we go. Hold on, I'm trying to figure out how to advance. There we go. Oh, okay, perfect. Sorry about that. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Unity, we are the world's leading platform for creating immersive content and experiences, with over 5 billion downloads per month of apps and experiences built on Unity, and 190 countries and territories with Unity creators. At Unity, we believe the world is a better place with more creators in it. This philosophy is centered around serving creators and is the beating heart of our company. It motivates each and every one of us to serve the global creator community, to help solve the toughest engineering, data, and operational problems, to ensure that our creators are building the most incredible experiences. I'm here to talk to you specifically about our Unity for Humanity program. So Unity for Humanity celebrates creators around the globe who are building experiences that have a positive impact on society and the planet. This program connects impact creators with our Unity ecosystem to support change-making, immersive content and stories through funding, mentorship, and technical support. We do this by partnering with projects selected through a call for submissions. Our social impact strategy is focused on 3 pillars, with inclusive storytelling at the heart of each one. So the 3 pillars are digital health and well-being, education and inclusive economic opportunity, and environment and sustainability. Our Unity for Humanity program launched in 2018. Those first 2 years, we awarded 1 project as a winner each year, and were giving at that time $25,000 per project. In 2020, the program grew immensely. We hosted 2 calls where we saw over 330 project submissions across gaming, augmented, and virtual reality across 47 countries. We awarded $175,000 in grants to 7 projects. 5 of them were from our general call for submissions, which was open across all the different social impact categories, and 2 were awarded as a part of our Rare Impact call for submissions, which was in partnership with Rare Beauty and focused on mental health and well-being projects. Those winners were actually just announced last week. So for our open call, we saw a fairly even distribution of submissions across our 3 impact pillars. And with regard to which medium the submissions were from, in 2020, 42% of the projects were virtual reality, 22% were games, and 20% were augmented reality. For our open call, the majority of the submissions were really focused on storytelling around the various social impact categories that people are building experiences for. But in the mental health space, we saw a lot more projects coming in that were solutions based. So that was really exciting to see. And we're really excited for 2021. So we actually have a call open right now that is focused on environment and sustainability. I'll give some more details later, but we're giving away $350,000 in grants, which is double what we gave away last year for both the calls that we hosted. And the thing is, we truly see our calls as more than just a vehicle for funding projects. We really see our calls for submissions as an opportunity for creators to join our Unity social impact community. Our grantees aren't the only ones that benefit from our calls for submissions, because we leverage the database of submissions that we get to provide other possible activations for creators outside of just the winning ones. So one of those things is that we find opportunities for nonprofits to get involved with creator projects by providing subject matter expertise in their area of focus. We also look for opportunities to feature our creators in talks, both at our own events, but also panels and talks where we participate, where there's an authentic way to weave in creator stories. I also lead the charge in trying to find additional funding for our creators via brands that are focused on impact areas that have budgets to support projects like the ones that our creators are submitting. So for example, National Geographic in Europe was looking for German language project specifically. So I was able to look at our calls from last year, our submissions from last year, and sort through everything that came from Germany, Austria, et cetera, and that was in German, and send them a few options of experiences that come specifically from the countries that they were focused on. So that's something that we do all the time. We're constantly trying to find opportunities for our creators outside of just winning the grants. And also later this year, we are really excited to be piloting a program to help support our impact creators through our newly announced volunteer time off program. So all Unity employees are given 20 hours a year that they're able to volunteer, and we're going to be partnering with a select amount of creators that have opportunities for volunteering outside of tech needs. We're obviously also open to finding tech opportunities, but we want to find volunteer options for employees in marketing, legal, finance, social media, communications, et cetera, that can help support our impact-focused projects. So we're really excited about that. And for 2021, here is what our programming looks like. So as I mentioned, we currently have a call for submissions that is open right now. It's focused on projects in the environment and sustainability space. If you or anyone you know has a real-time 3D project that is in that genre, please make sure to submit it by June 3rd. We are really excited about this call. We're already seeing a ton of in-progress submissions, and we are also partnered with 2 nonprofits, UNEP and Project Drawdown, to help support this call. So they're going to be providing mentorship and coaching for the winning projects, and they're also helping us judge the call as well. Later this fall, we are going to host another call for submissions, and that's going to be open to any social impact area, and that will run through the end of the year. And in addition, we're going to be hosting our second Unity for Humanity Summit, which again will be 100% virtual. It's the date is TBA, but we are looking forward to highlighting creators across our 3 impact pillars. So again, that's digital health and well-being, education and inclusive economic opportunity, and environment and sustainability. And we're going to be providing opportunities for our attendees to connect with experts in real-time 3D and with each other. So we have more details around that coming out soon, so keep an eye out. And that wraps it up for me. So thank you so much. Looking forward to the Q&A.
Great. David, do you want to load your slides up in the URL? And while he does that, Alana, 3D real time just means not CGI.
So real-time 3D is a category that we really are a leader in. So it's basically content that you can in real time manipulate while someone is watching it. So it basically can, it's not linear necessarily, right? It's immersive and it can change. So there's like an experience, for example, called Trip VR, which is a VR experience. It's a meditation game. And that iteration changes every time you play it based on how you interact with it. So that's what makes it real time, as an example.
Helpful. Now we're supposed to take these at the end, but I don't see David's slides up, so I'm going to let
I
you
have
take.
it in the URL. I just I don't see it up on the screen.
Click the refresh button. Because you're using the center screen there, right?
Oh, I just I didn't know how to select a specific screen. Give me one URL area.
Yeah, sorry, it's called the main web screen.
Point at the main screen and click on it. That should do it.
usually around 200K for the first 6 months, 6 or 8 months. And then based on your performance in the phase 1, you reapply for a phase 2, which is the larger amount and larger timeline. And essentially you get, evaluated based on your performance in phase 1 for whether you get the phase 2, the larger phase 2 grant. That's what we did for Department of Ed. It's the phase 1s are pretty competitive. So I think there was like maybe 200 applicants the year that we got our phase 1, and they selected, I want to say 15. And then out of the 15 in the phase 2, they award about half of the applicants to phase 2. So it's kind of paradoxically a lot less competitive for the phase 2, even though it's more, but you've already run the competitive gauntlet for the phase 1. So fast track for NIH, the first one up there, that's where you apply for the phase 1 and phase 2 at the same time. And it's basically like saying, it's almost a little comparable to fast tracking a vaccine or something. It's like, we have this thing that's super hot. This is what you're kind of representing. It's really good. It's exciting. So kind of, why don't you award us the whole thing at the same time? And then we can save time and not have to, spend as much time in the application process for the phase 2. So that we were fortunate enough to kind of pull that off with NIH. Well, so we kind of went through both versions of the SBIR. I'll stop there for a second to see if anybody has any questions, and then I'll go on to some more kind of pointers and general thoughts.
And you can type the question into the box. I think it does make sense to take questions immediately. Originally I was thinking we'd all talk and then do questions at the end, like this other panel I was on, but everyone's doing such divergent, different things. Let's take questions now. And hopefully you'll also talk a little bit about your company, like how big are you? How many coders do you have? How long did it take you to make Visceral VR?
Sure. So we have 7 people right now. We've got 3 engineers that kind of do a mix between, game engineering. We actually use Unity. We use all Unity all the time. And then we also have folks that do some web development. And then we have a couple artists and UX design people. So these grants have helped us kind of double in size or more in the last couple of years, which has been really great. It's a lot of progress. Let's see.
There was a question, can we look at other grants that have funded by these organizations?
What was that?
Someone wants to know if they could look at other grants that have been funded by the organizations. And I will say that most of those departments, like certainly NSF and NEH, they list previous grants. So you can see what they funded and get a sense of the organization. Here's a question. I'm very interested in the visceral metabolism project. May I know how I can learn more and explore linking this to nutrition and food sciences?
I will. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my email in the chat. And if you want to drop me a line about that, I can give you some more information. Some of these projects are still kind of in, development mode, so there's not a whole lot publicly, but I'm happy to talk about it and share some more information. I will say a couple things about. I don't know how far along in the process everybody is for applying to grants or thinking about them, but I think there's a few things that I and we have learned about the process, and it's a serious process. It's a big time and money investment. You can do it without investing a lot of money, but time investment that you put into doing these applications is major. So it's something to go into with eyes open and kind of having done your homework and thinking about, it's a risk reward ratio, right? Because it could take weeks or even months to apply to these, and the applications are 100 pages long, and I mean, I don't want to scare you or anything, but it does take quite a bit of time. The main core of the application is generally a research proposal that can be anywhere from 5 to 12 single-spaced pages. And so you have to talk about what your plan is for the research, and what the details of the innovation, and your timeline, and your team, and your competition. And in the phase 2, you have to talk about your commercialization plan, and that can be its own 12 or 15-page document. So it's a big, giant homework assignment. And it takes, like I said, time to learn the process and all the different pieces that you have to put together, and time to actually write it. But when you get to the other side and you win the grant, it's great, because it's, you sort of get to say, well, this idea kind of was able to get far enough to run the gauntlet, and the reviewers liked it, and the Department of Education liked it, and NIH liked it, and we got this funding that let us explore and develop our idea and commercialize it. So it's like any other big bet you're going to take as a person or as an organization. It's a bet. But so that's why I start with this slide, which is you're going to spend so much time with your idea and your project that you want to make sure that you find or start with an idea that you're really excited about and that you think has a lot of potential, and don't just start with getting excited about the idea of getting funding, because it's not going to carry you far enough. You want to have something that's going to get other people excited about giving you the funding. And so that's why I also say, put yourself in the shoes of the reviewer or the funder, and think about their job is to fund things that are going to be successful, so that they can say, we have supported these great innovations, and everybody wins. So in order for them to be able to say that, they have to be looking for really good, exciting ideas. So it's kind of like, that's the salespersonship part of it, is you want to go in with an idea that is going to generate excitement, and there's a lot to it. So it's worth spending the time developing your idea. Also, I come from a background of creative writing. And so when I write grant applications, I think of it as a creative writing kind of challenge. And that's not to say fictionalizing anything, of course, but it means as when you're writing something engaging like a story, you want to get people excited about it, and to make use of their imagination, and to conjure images and visions of what the future can be with your innovation. And so just like in a good story, you want to appeal to people's senses and get them excited about what you're talking about, and let them see. And so that's why I say examples, and visuals whenever possible. Here's an example of an image that we're doing for one of our current projects about cell biology. And we spent quite a lot of time and even some funding developing this, because we wanted to have a picture, that's worth 1,000 words for what you're going to do in this application. And in this case, you're inside the cell, and you're interacting with mRNA, the famous mRNA from vaccines, to actually build an antibody. And so you are kind of this drone robot inside a cell, and so you're learning science from being inside the mechanics of the cell. But if I just said to you, we're doing something where you're inside a cell, and I didn't have a picture, you wouldn't really be able to imagine it. But with a picture like this, you can imagine things much more easily. And so we did a lot of this kind of stuff for our grants, is doing the work to help other people visualize your idea, is also work you're doing to help yourself visualize your idea. So I really think that examples and visuals really, really go a long way to help. I'm probably going over my 8-minute time here, but I'll just sort of wrap up by saying it's worth investing a little bit of funding if you can find it into developing these kinds of visuals, or into just developing the concept, however you want to do that, whether it's concept art or little prototypes or anything that can help kind of make it come alive. Because we're talking about, we're in the world of virtual reality and kind of ed tech gaming here, right? So everything is very visual and interactive. So you want to develop the feel of those early so that you can communicate your message effectively to potential funders. And then the last piece is, don't be afraid to, in fact, not just don't be afraid, but find a way to get help from the people that can help you. And there's a lot of different avenues for that, but help in developing the visuals, or help in one part that I didn't mention is the research component of these grants is very important. They're research grants, even though they're also about commercializing products. They're supposed to be products that are based on efficacy research. So you want to team up with somebody, if you don't have them on your team already, that is able to conduct effective, rigorous efficacy research. And so, for instance, our research partner is an organization called West Ed that does a lot of grant research. And so you partner with them and they can help you write your application to reflect an understanding of how you want to structure the research part of your grant. And so that's basically a series of studies that are evaluating the progress of your product over the course of the grant, for anything from kind of focus group types of studies to larger randomized controlled trials where you would have a lot of users, students or teachers or whoever in a randomized controlled trial, so you can get real data about how it's working. And so we didn't have the internal expertise to be able to do that. So we found West Ed, but there are other ways that you can do that. So don't be afraid to ask for help, and help is good. And I'll stop there and see if there are any more questions.
Great. While people type up questions, just say, as someone who sat on over a dozen review boards for many different institutes, we can always tell if a submission has been written like fully by an artist or fully by a creative writer. And there's often lots of academics on the panel. So there's a kind of crisp academic language that we want to see. And so if you don't have that, you do get sort of dinged for it. So I think that was really smart of David to hook up with West Ed, and they could supply that sort of, academic tone to that part of the research plan. And Karen's wondering if you could share some info about how to contact West Ed in the chat.
Sure, I'll just pop their URL in there.
Just really quickly, I wanted to mention something since you were talking about getting submissions. One of the things that I really recommend for any Unity grants anyway, we have an FAQ section at the bottom of our page it's just unity.com/humanity, which I'll share in a second. But that FAQ section goes through the criteria that we use for selecting projects and other notes that I think are really valuable to read through before you write up your submission, because that will obviously ensure that you're catering your submission to exactly what we are looking for. So that's just a quick tip for any Unity for Humanities submissions.
Great. Asking David questions. Meanwhile, Andruid, can you click on main stage screen and put your URL in there if you have slides?
For folks that are really brand new to this whole process, another thing that's worth doing early on in the process is to contact the grants officers at the various agencies. Try to talk to them about your concept, your project early, and just get their sense of, does your project fit their needs, their program guidelines, or the kinds of projects they're looking for. those often grants officers are very helpful and can kind of give you some thoughts and feedback on your project, including maybe, no, this isn't the right project for us, but we may want to look at this other agency. Or yes, that sounds good, but make sure that you have this or that when you apply. So as with any big project, good to get feedback early from the folks that are, kind of closest to the process. Jonathan is asking if we have a grant writing team with someone doing budget, someone doing graphics, and lead authors and stuff. For us, I kind of, since I have a background as a writer, I used to be
think
a
my
journalist.
audio is okay. Sorry.
Oh, good. Okay, Andrew.
Where do I put the URL?
Go
Sorry.
to Screen Zoom at the top and click on the middle screen there. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no problem.
I'm sorry too.
Sure. So just sort of that the writing part of it was something that came from my background, because I got trained as a writer and was a journalist. So that was part of something I could contribute as a strength. But certainly it was a team effort with I had one of my artists on my team do the visuals, and our research partner helps to write, as Mina was saying, helps to write the research side of it with the right perspective and language and understanding of the research needs. And then stuff with budget is depends how big your organization is. I did all the budget stuff myself because we were a small team, and I learned a lot by kind of navigating the wicket of grants budgeting. And it is kind of institutional knowledge. Once you do it, you kind of know how to do it, and it's easier to do it the next time. But there's a good amount to learn about all the different documents and budgeting math and things that you need for that. Cool. Well, I'll take a seat, but thank you so much for everything and for all the questions. And I appreciate the chance to share, and drop me a line if you'd like to, if there's anything else I can do to help.
Thank you so much. All right, now we're gonna problem solve a little, whoops, with Andruid. Let me see if I can grab its slides. Link. Go. All right, okay. Oops. Nope. Control C. Enter. Start presentation. Yes.
Okay, but wait, you're not using the one I did. You're using a different one.
It should be showing up now in the middle screen. Yeah. So if you use the presentation box on your bottom right where it says presentation tools, you can control that.
So I just changed it.
You did. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Great.
Welcome, Andruid. Introduce yourself.
Thanks, Mina. Good to be here, and thanks to Mina for organizing this. My name is Andruid Kern. I'm a program director in a number of programs at the National Science Foundation, as well as a professor at Texas A&M University in computer science and engineering. Especially, my core program is called Human-Centered Computing. I'm also involved in the future of work at the Human Technology Frontier, research in emerging technologies for teaching and learning, and ethical and responsible research And I just want to say, I'll take questions anytime. I'd be happy to be interrupted. So if anyone has a question as I'm going, please don't wait to the end. Okay. So my personal interests, I consider myself to be so-called transdisciplinary. That is, I have some multiplicity of disciplinary backgrounds, and I like to blend them and not respect the boundaries between them. Yeah, and my quote field is human-computer interaction, and I do research and I teach, and I'm especially focused on creativity design, social computing, participation, and diversity. I'm really oriented to design processes that, that involve users, get data continuously, and a goal of generating new ideas for how technologies can work, as well as for validating them. And so I'm very mixed methods oriented. I kind of personally, I fund all sorts of things, but my personal orientation is that both qualitative and quantitative data can be kind of equally valid, but either way you need to have rigorous methods. Oh, there's one thing I didn't put in here. Hold on a second. I'm going to fix this. Really important, or I wouldn't do it, but hold on. Remembered something that I think is the most important thing that you could possibly want to have to learn about how to write an NSF proposal. And I'm going to stick it in here. Just give me 1 second. Please.
Yeah, and for those of you who've never tooled around the NSF site, it's pretty well laid out. And so if you type in nsf.gov, you'll get to the main page, and then you'll look under grants, and then you'll see everything you need to know. And I'm hoping that Android at some point just tells us, what are the 5 programs that are most amenable to people working in VR and AR. So
I'm telling you the ones that I'm involved in. I don't really have that kind of global knowledge in a way. I could guess, but I don't feel that. I'm going to tell about the ones that I work on. NSF merit review criteria. This is very, very important. Okay. So, so these are the programs I'm involved in that you could potentially apply to, and we do get proposals involving AR, VR, XR, and these programs. One is, the first 2 are so-called core programs in human-centered computing. Small awards can be up to 500K, and mediums can be up to 1.2 million. And you should Google, if you're interested, you should Google, to say NSF HCC core or NSF Ruppel, and you can find the quote solicitations. Those are the call for proposals that Foundation is called a solicitation, and you should read them because they're pretty specific and rigorous. We work really hard on writing them, honestly. So Ruppel is research in technologies for teaching and learning. It has to have a learning sciences component as well as a technology component. And that tells you something about who's going to be reviewing the proposals. HCC is really human-computer interaction writ large, and that's already a cross-disciplinary field. Ruppel adds learning sciences really specifically. And then I'm involved in this program called the Future of Work as a Human Technology Frontier, which is even more cross-disciplinary. You're expected to have like sociologists, anthropologists, economists, people in different fields. You really have to have 2 or 3 fields well represented. I think grants could be a good way to get started. And I should say, actually, these amounts, these are for the current fiscal year. There could be new solicitations, and things could change next year, and I have no control about that. And if I did know anything about it, I couldn't tell you. The Foundation's really specific about these, really rigorous about these things. Anyway, so there are the different amounts for future of work at the human technology frontier. And you can see kind of the more money that you try to get for doing, quote, scientific research from NSF, the more cross-disciplinary or transdisciplinary your team needs to be. And yeah, I would expect to hit those kind of criteria really rigorously. Okay.
Are
this
we,
is really
so Andruid, yeah, are we supposed to be looking at the CHS medium slide? That's what we see
Oh
in the
my
middle, is the
God, I'm
TAPS
sorry.
slide.
I just realized that I'm doing, yes, I'm completely, wait a minute. We're supposed
Are
to
you
be
just
looking
giving
at this
yourself a
slide.
private presentation?
Yes, I was doing that. Can you see the slide did I just change the slide successfully?
We're looking at CHS medium.
No, I'm not changing them. I'm changing them in some, I'm changing them in your environment, but I'm not actually changing them for, all right. Can you just do this for me? I don't understand where, because
There
I
we
have a
go.
presentation
Now you're back
tool
to
and
the opening slide. You're back to the opening, the first slide.
there should be one that says my research focus.
Yes.
Okay, and here's the one with the programs I was just talking about. You see that? HCC small, HCC medium, Rattle.
It's not showing up.
Working perfectly in my ILRN virtual campus environment.
It looks like everybody has a unique instance of your presentation, Andruid. So if everybody mouses over your screen, they can go up and.
Oh, there we go. Now I see it.
If that works.
Okay. All right. We got it now.
Criteria. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Carry on.
I've
Sorry.
been talking without people seeing what I was doing. And thank you for saying that. Okay. So you see, people see the program slides now?
Yes.
Mina? Okay, so those
Yeah.
are the programs I was just talking about. I'm thinking that you were reading them as I went along. Again, the core program of human-centered computing, small 500K, medium up to 1.2, research and emerging technologies for teaching and learning, which adds learning science to HCI, up to 800K, future of work at the human technology frontier. And I was saying, so planning grants are 1 year, and you have to have a good idea, and you have to have a cross-disciplinary team. And as I was saying, that team could potentially involve economists, architects, urban planners. There's lots of fields, sociologists. So that's 1 year and up to 150K. If you have a good idea and a good team, then that would position you well to get this kind of an award, which helps you develop the ideas for the larger sizes, the research and transition to scale, which are more money. And yeah, as I was saying before, the way NSF works, the more money that a grant is associated with the grant, the higher the level of collaboration and cross-disciplinarity is expected. It's really demanded, honestly. Okay, so now I'm on the merit review criteria slide. Can people see that?
Yes.
Mina? Great.
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Okay, so this is the way that NSF proposals are evaluated according to these review criteria. Intellectual merit is also known as research contribution, and broad impact is how the benefits to society. And I'm not going to read all of these, but I'm going to read number 3 because it's really important and a place where proposals, I mean, they're all important, but proposals often fall down on number 3. Is the plan for carrying out the proposed activities well-reasoned and well-organized and based on a sound rationale? That means, are you building on theory that exists already about why your idea is a good idea? Certainly, Mina Johnson-Glenberg is an example of someone who has a strong basis in theory in her work. But so you want to have that kind of a basis. You want to understand why the technologies you're proposing, you want to communicate it, or the new technologies you're proposing are a good idea. Well organized means that you have a research plan that makes sense. Does the plan incorporate a mechanism to assess success? That means you're going to work with data somehow, and that how you're going to work with data and what it has to do with your research contributions is really clear. And I talk to principal investigators all the time, and it doesn't matter how experienced they are. I almost always end up coming back to this thing, number 3. I mean, the other ones all matter, but it's number 3 is like where the pedal hits the metal as far as I'm concerned personally. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about a few awards, several awards, a couple that I've made personally as a program director, and a few that my colleague, Prabha Balakrishnan, has made. And, you know, from these, you could get a sense of how we're different as program directors potentially and what our orientation is. So this first one from Catherine Isbister and Joshua McVeigh Schultz is about having generating new and understanding new ideas for how to conduct network meetings using VR, which is pretty obviously a hot topic, and it's about this idea of social cues, how to, what kinds of information matters in social settings involving people, and how to develop new ideas about this. So this is a very design-oriented grant. You can see that they're using a research through design approach, and they're performing different kinds of studies, and their goal is to develop theory and implications for design. So it's really about generating and developing and showing the efficacy of different kinds of ideas for how to communicate social presence and relationships in VR for meetings specifically. Oops. Okay, so that's one. Another one is this one, Stephanie Mueller and Kayla Desportes. This one, oh, the name is wrong. Oh, so sorry, that's a cut and paste error. So this one is not about network meetings. It's about games and fabrication and using XR as a medium for teaching those things. So this one, as you can see, combines methods from learning sciences, game design, and HCI to investigate through, again, an iterative design process. That means you keep getting more information, you keep gathering data about users. Knowledge maps connecting skills and concepts that can be integrated with game mechanics. Theory and principles for designing and evaluating maker learning games. And then they get more specific as it goes on about how that's going to benefit learning. Okay. This one is one that Prabha funded. The PI is Hong Tan at Purdue. And this is about these, this is vibrotactile array worn on the forearm, and how haptic patterns can be used to communicate effectively as an input modality. So, I mean, what you can see is that the first two are kind of more holistic in a way, and that this is like focusing on this very specific aspect of input and in potentially in a VR XR environment, and this vibrotactile way of people expressing themselves. And they have very, very strong results in this work. So in that sense, you can see there's a range of possibilities for research that could be look at, experience as a whole more, or as specific modalities and aspects of the experience. And, these are all It says CHS, that was the name of our human-centered computing program for a while, both an interim period before and HCC, but also it used to be called HCC, human-centered computing before. So yeah, this gives you a flavor for the kind of range, at least our core program is been addressing. Here's another one. This one is about bias reduction and inclusivity. And this is an investigation of how the gender representation of Tabitha Peck, how the gender representation of avatars affects people's experience of harassment and other kind of socially degrading experiences in here in STEM classrooms, but in VR environments. And here's one that's about motion capture and how it how manipulation could be, affect experiences and performance in VR environments. And finally, one about the Internet of Things and VR and how different kinds of sensors can have an effect. So that gives you kind of this little smorgasbord, this little space of different kinds of awards we've made. That doesn't at all mean that that's like limits the range of what would make sense or what would be possible. That's my contact information. I'm not necessarily the best program director for you, as you could see. So probability person would be another possibility, but there are lots of program directors at NSF. And as Mina was saying that she introduced me, the NSF website has a lot of information. It is worth communicating with program directors. It might take patience and fortitude because we get really busy, especially at certain times of year like now. But if you are patient, it's highly likely you will manage to talk to us. It's good to send a one-page, what do we call a one-pager, a kind of project summary of the kind of work that you're planning to do to get feedback on it before sending a proposal. I highly recommend that. And if you send a proposal and it gets rejected, I highly recommend you try your work to talk to the program director then. You know, and I mean, I can tell you personally that I certainly, I consider one aspect of my job to help people from different kinds of backgrounds understand and kind of strategies and tactics for writing proposals to NSF. But as is, yeah. So, because, yeah, I'm not a typical scientist, although I do have a PhD in computer science. But yeah, I'm certainly interested in work that, you know, pushes the boundaries of what's possible and generates new ideas, as well as the kind of validates things that are more obvious. So, yeah, I encourage you to, you know, interact with the NSF web presence and kind of develop ideas about how your own work can fit into different spaces that we're funding. I mean, there's, yeah. And
thank you so much, Andrew. I'm gonna just see, we only have a couple minutes left. If there's some more questions in the audience for either you or our Unity representative here. So I have not muted you guys. I think you guys can speak out loud if you want from the audience. Or type in questions. while people type, is there anything you want to say quickly about your SBIR program, Andruid? You guys have one as well.
NSF does have one. I'm not an expert in it. We have SBIR and STTR, and we also have something called a convergence accelerator. So there's a number of NSF programs that are designed for whatever overlaps, you know, conjunctions between research ideas and business and so-called technology transfer. And I think to do those kinds of things, you need to have some kind of partnership between researchers and entrepreneurs.
Or a university, yeah, the transfer ones. So Heather would like to know, what are the current trends in successfully funded projects? Do you notice any trends?
Trends is very hard for me to have a perspective on. I mean, I showed some projects that I know about to give you kind of a flavor of what's been funded fairly recently. I mean, for example, the project about social VR and meetings, which was actually written before the pandemic started, I think, but it was very timely. But that doesn't mean that that's the right thing to write a proposal about now. I don't know. I mean, again, I think that the key is to have a clear research idea, something, you know, a creative idea, and plus a plan for investigation about how you're going to work with people and data and to do something new. And that's the most important thing. I don't know. I'm not very flavor of the month oriented myself.
All right, well, I don't see people typing, so I think I will call this main event finished. If the speakers can hang around for a couple of minutes afterwards, that would be wonderful, but the live stream will now close. Thank you again to our videographers, Tony Studios, and the amazing YouTube audience that's here now. This will be taped and available for people to listen to later.